This is Bless Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad in southeast London in Bromley, and with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and how's the weather where you are?
Hello, you're fine here and it's quite warm.
Quite warm, okay. Here it is overcast just now and warm as well. So you could say something similar. Welcome listeners to this spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And we have a topic every week. The topic tonight is what defines a woman? If you remember last week we had the topic what defines a man, and so today we're discussing what defines a woman. And you're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, the topic we're discussing tonight is what defines a woman? And you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as usual, I like to look in the dictionary, the topic we're discussing. And so tonight's topic, again, listeners, is what defines a woman. So the main word there is, well, the main word they're focusing on, let's say, it's woman. And I looked that up in the dictionary, Gregory, and it said very simply, an adult female human being. So, Gregory, is that a good definition for our discussion?
For our discussion, basically, which framework is that of the spiritual? That which you mentioned is too limited, because that which the dictionary presents to many is only the last manifestation of what the intuition of a woman is. Therefore, for one's discussions regarding spirituality, that is completely inadequate.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. So that what you have just said, it now immediately we'll ask ourselves, oh, what does it mean then? If that's such a limited meaning, the dictionary meaning is so limited, which says adult female human being. And then, well, we know, Gregory, obviously there are female of the animal species. I mean, animals, there are female there and male, of course. So, but here we definitely, so let's just look at that clearly, Gregory. In our discussion tonight, when we look at the word woman or think about that concept of woman, are we thinking of the human being? Let's start with that first.
Of course, we are considering the human being.
Right. Okay. And so the animals is not part of this discussion then?
Well, we said human beings.
Yes.
Animals are not human beings, are they?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just clarifying that. And the other aspect, Gregory, you pointed out is it is a spiritual discussion show, so we need to look at it spiritually. So maybe, Gregory, we start with that. So how do we define a woman in a spiritual sense?
To be able to define a woman in a spiritual sense, one must examine using one's intuition. For it is the intuition or the intuitive impression that gives a more conclusive or more refined definition. And that is whenever one considers activities which abound here or hereafter, those activities in which the personality is engaged towards the finer things, it is in those activities that one can define a woman. That is the personality who gets involved in the finer aspects of activities.
Thank you for that, Gregory. So I can only see that we are sort of clarifying and I don't want to use the word exactly expanding, but showing the focus of this, the discussion about what defines a woman. So we are talking about activities which are finer, associated with the woman. Now, Gregory, I will just ask this straight away. Does that mean the man, the male of the species human being, he should not be involved in finer things? Does that mean that? And only the woman should be there doing the finer things?
That personality of the male is involved in the rougher things or in the coarser things. However, the activities of the woman and that of the man, when united, forms the whole.
Right. But but what I was asking, I understand what I see the picture you're painting there, but my question is that, is it the finer activity, is it only exclusively meant to be done by women, and the men are supposed to do exclusively the coarser activity? Is that like that?
Well, when one looks at or considers nature presents or grants the individual, in accordance with the laws of creation, the abilities that one needs in order to be useful within nature, within creation. And therefore, in this particular discussion, one finds that the woman has been granted intrinsically the ability to perceive the finer streams of nature, of creation, whereas the man has the ability to implement. That means to execute that which has been passed on by the woman to the man. So, in that case, if you now have the scenario of where the man wishes to get involved in the finer things, you will find that nature or the laws of creation did not grant him that intrinsic ability. And therefore, it will be going out of context. Such, subsequently, will give rise to, in subsequent incarnation, distorted souls, where you will have a male soul in a woman's body.
Right. Okay, I'm getting the picture again there, Gregory. So what you're pointing to is there's nature's design of what a male activity or male human being is supposed to do and what a female human being is meant to do. If, as we have said many times in the past, we human beings have free will, we can choose, to go a particular way or another, let's put it this way, to align with nature's design or not, because of the free will. And if we do sort of go away, maybe I should use the word against the nature's design, then there are certain consequences from that. We'll explore that further, Gregory. We'll talk about that further because we only just started now. So yeah. Now, another thing I would like to sort of define is this. You've used the word finer activity and coarse or rough activity. So the finer one we said is more for the womanly activity, and the coarser is for the man or male. So when we talk about finer activity, because this topic is about what defines a woman, what do we mean by finer activity?
By finer activities, one is referring to the fine vibrations in nature, in creation. The woman personality has been fully equipped to be able to resonate with these fine vibrations, and thereafter to pass on the meaning of these fine vibrations to the other personality that is of the man, such that it can proceed to implement that which has been perceived. One is more like a receiver, an antenna that receives of the fine vibration, and the other is the executor of that impression which has been perceived.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. When you were saying that, I was thinking, one is as you said, the woman here is the fine, involved with the finer activity and is receiving, and then and the male is supposed to execute. But there's, Gregory, we know in life, male or female activity, there is execution done, let's say, by the female. Any activity you can think of. Let's just think of something. Let's say a family living in a home, or just a couple living in a home, male and female, and the woman would be, well, it could be either of them, but in this case we're talking about the woman. She could be doing cleaning, she could be making, whatever homely things, of cooking and all that, of that, from my understanding, would be executing. So when you're talking just now about woman being receiving and the male doing the executing, how is it that explain that in this home activities? Should the woman not execute any?
One is basically referring to the way nature has presented, or the way these activities manifest in nature. For instance, when one is referring to the finer activities, and that is the woman that is the bridge to be able to perceive of these fine activities, that is why nature has equipped the woman with the necessary tools it needs. And that is why you have that it is the woman who, when it comes to childbirth, it is the woman who carries the baby, not the man. Unless, however, you now find a way to say it is the man who has not been equipped with any womb to carry a baby. So nature had made it very clear what the woman is by the abilities that has been granted to her. That man is unable to observe these things and brings it to very petty things is his fault alone. Like has been stressed, woman has been granted through nature the abilities that she needs to be able to accomplish her task. And one of the key is to act as a bridge to be able to attract human soul who, after the attraction, are able to resonate with the body which is growing in her womb, not of the man. The man has nothing at all to be able to accomplish that. So one should take that as an example. The other ones are very petty. For you will find, oh, the woman does the cleaning. That is material. The man can also do the cleaning. But the basic things, the basic examples which the human personality must observe from is the abilities which has been granted to the man and the abilities which have been granted to the woman. That is the starting point.
Thank you for this answer and clarification, Gregory. So we are to look, it's like you need to look at the foundation from the spiritual point of view, and not, let's say, from our, as you've said, petty way of looking from the earthly point of view. Yes. So, yep. Obviously, there's so many activities, and it's like we need to categorize them properly if you have to understand this picture that we're trying to paint today. What defines a woman? Now, Gregory, I want to look at what defines a woman, because so much debates going on nowadays. But just in a simple way, the physical sexual organs, or the biological definition of woman, is that let's say part of this definition of woman? Yeah, because obviously, without going into too much discussion right at this minute, people can have sex change and all that's things, and suddenly these physical parts can be removed or added, and so on, to either sex here. So just to get clarification on that, so when we are saying what defines a woman, are the physical body parts relevant to that definition?
At the beginning of our discussions, one made it very clear that the basis, the framework of our discussion is spiritual. So spiritually, one had defined how or what the activities of a woman, the inclination or the activities of a woman through its inclination, plus that which is finer. From the spiritual standpoint of view, you now have on the earthly side how this inclination manifests. So in the manifestation, originally, as is well known, that is what many refer to as the biological, in which you have the female. And then on the other hand, we have the male. If, however, many decide now to have a change, it is they themselves who have decided. For there are some who have a change and then they want to have a change again. But deep within, spiritually, the decisions that the human personality has made at the first inception holds. And that is, if the inclination is towards the finer activities, then that personality is granted the abilities to perceive more intuitively, to act as a bridge between one sphere and another, just as you have on earth. If, however, the personality, the spiritual personality, decides to get into the rougher or the coarser aspects of activities, then that personality becomes the male. Those manifestations that you find on earth are very precise. However, it is the spiritual which makes the decision, which now drives further incarnations, either as that drives the personality to have a female body or a male body. These are what one has classified as distorted in quotes, because deep within, spiritually, they either remain a male or a female. How all these things manifest now depends on the individuals, how they wish to, proceed ahead.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this clarification and the picture that you've painted there, because what we're doing here, listeners, is to set a foundation, firm foundation, where once you realize that what is that foundation, then you can now proceed. Because as we know in the world, so many things are going on here, in this news and so on, or even people may be going through certain feelings within themselves. They feel, oh, I'm in the wrong body, or whatever that some people are going through, and it's difficult for them, and then maybe they're getting even discriminated and so on, and they don't know why, what is this, what's going on here. And here we are building the foundation so that people can work this out for themselves, but based on a foundation.
Well, if I may come in.
Yes.
One will advise many a listener, or whoever they may be, to examine the works in the light of truth, the Grail Message. There, sequentially, the human personality is led to understand what the man is, what the woman is, their roles in creation, not only on earth, and also the cases where there are distortions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Understanding the framework, the human personality can now make decisions, hopefully in accordance with the laws of creation, which laws of creations are a manifestation of the divine will. In that case, having made a decision which resonates with the divine will, they are able to benefit such that here or hereafter they will be on the right track.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this, what you have added there. Listeners, yes, so as Gregory has pointed to pick up the Grail Message, examine it for yourself. And in case you want to do that, I want to refer you to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Abrushing. And the topic we're discussing tonight is, what defines a woman? What defines a woman? You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Blessed Radio. Blessed Radio, you can listen to us on Blessed Radio 1, the number 1.com. And also you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. And you can also listen to the recording of the show the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is what defines a woman. And of course, you can listen to our other past shows as well. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. Again, the number 1. And Zeno is spelled ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. Now, Gregory, we've set out quite clearly that when we look at what is a woman or what defines a woman, we need to really, really focus on the spiritual foundation first, and then, because that's where you could say it all started at that and there, and then through our activities or our wishes, our fate is, or our actions lead to you could say, our fate. And so what happens next, those are decisions that are made after the origin of our, basically after we have, our journey has started from the spiritual. Now, I just want to look, Gregory, at, let's say, we've talked about the activity is women are meant to focus on finer activities, and the men on the coarser or rougher activities. So I just want to look now that some of the abilities, Gregory, of women. We've already talked about the intuition, which is common to both man and woman. And we do hear, woman's intuition is sharper somehow. So let's try to understand that, Gregory. Why is, let's say, woman has a certain ability. I know we have a finer and coarser activity. I understand that, but why is it the intuition, which is common to both, one in the case of woman is sharper than the man?
One had stressed that within the structure of creation, you would have that the woman is the bridge between that which is finer and that which is rougher, or that which is coarse. Within the woman, spiritually, is anchored these abilities, which is able, therefore, to receive of the streams, of the fine streams through creation, through nature. First, these streams are perceived by the woman. And because she is the bridge, she first senses these streams and subsequently passes these streams or interprets these streams such that the human man is now able to perceive of it and make use of it in a rough way or in a coarser way. Take, for instance, when challenges do occur, say in the need to complete a task, it is the fine picture that comes first before the material realization, which is then put in place. One is stressing this. If you take the case that you wish to build a house, to build a house, there is the picture of the house and the contents of the house. That picture comes first. That is, one is able to perceive it in one's intuition. Only subsequently is that picture then realized through the upbuilding by bringing the different parts. The realization is what one refers to as the coarse parts, the rougher parts. So there are two aspects: the finer part, which is the picture, and then the realization on the earthly. Now, with regards to the woman, she is able to perceive of the finer much better than the man. And that is why she forms the bridge. Nature has granted to her in an earthly way the bridge to be able to attract a human soul and hold that human soul within herself over a period of time before birth. Man does not have that ability, has not been granted to that ability. So, if one considers these things very carefully, man can only support her in that period. And when birth has been given to, you will find that support continues from there. So it becomes very clear that one deals with that which is finer, and the other one deals with that which is rougher, in helping to make a realization here on earth.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. So I saw one of the key words you mentioned there was the bridge. Woman is a bridge, receiving and passing on to the man. And so it's like once we see that, some may think of this as a mechanical way of looking at this meaning or defining what a woman is and what a man is, but we're looking at the structure, Gregory, how you're talking about it, and so it's not about. It's a very key to see this picture really, because many of us may not be familiar, to see man and woman in this way. So, but now we realize the role, you can say the role that is played by woman and the role played by man, and how it fits together. When you use the word complementary, you can take it in a very take things for granted without really realizing, how important what that actually means. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, Gregory, as you were talking, I was starting to think, yes, I know you said women associated with the finer activity and the male with the coarser activity. And then we talked already, women have a sharper intuition, and of course it's suited to their role. And then suddenly I started to think, is woman somehow stronger than man or superior to man? I know we've talked about them being complementary, but somehow suddenly I got that impression that woman has a higher ability than man in some way. So can you clarify that? Is the woman more superior to man?
One is stressing here that psychically or spiritually, the woman is more endowed to be able to perceive of the strings in accordance with the laws of creation. If she uses that ability to be able to resonate and perceive of the will, then she is stronger.
Thank you for that. Now, on the earth, Gregory, in society, the male has been dominant, if I can say, making decisions and in society and even in the family and so on. And maybe this is less so in today's world. So that sounds, Gregory, if that was, and that was from the, thousands of years, that is how it, at least that's how it looks to us, Gregory. The man has been, in quotes, in charge in activities on the earth, you can say. And the woman was, let's say, I don't like to say it this way, but it's almost like they're being used as servants sometimes. It seems that way. So, and that, of course, doesn't align with how you have explained it with the laws of nature, what the role of man and woman is meant to be in terms of finer and coarse activity. It's always meant to be complementary. But the reality, Gregory, what I'm pointing to is that man has been dominating woman on the earth. So, and also, Gregory, what do I want to say? Okay, let me ask this part of the question first then. So Gregory, was there this, let's say, traditions from the old times of it appears the man was the dominant over the woman. Is that correct? And is that like, so was the man, let's say, disobeying the laws of nature in these olden times?
When one observes clearly what has been happening, the activities of the woman has always been within the home, and the activities of the man have always been out of the home in order to gather the resources necessary for the home. In the past, if one is to make a judgment, you find there have been countless women over millennia, again and again. And when one examines this very carefully, men have been in the forefront of this world. Ask yourself, were women in charge, making the decisions for war or not war? How many a woman will permit of her offsprings to go and destroy the offsprings of others? For the woman understands the challenges of childbirth and can easily sense the suffering of another. And therefore, many of them will not support such. We wish to protect their offsprings, whereas the men did not even think twice. Therefore, one has to be very careful when observing these things. It is true that many a man who has allowed himself not to be able to observe properly wishes to dominate. However, it should be seen very carefully how wrong it has been. For how can you then dominate the other person who is complementary to you? A simple example that one would like to give is in the games that men play nowadays. Look at the case of so-called football, in which there is someone who keeps the goal, and there is another who goes on the attack. Their activities are complementary. The one at the goal or the one who goes on the attack will not say he is superior and wants to dominate. That would be wrong. It is the gentleness of the man, the understanding of the man in serving the woman who stands at her post in accordance with the laws of creation. That is what the man should observe in order to be able to proceed aright. However, a lot of these things have been greatly distorted, and therefore you find the man wanting to dominate without having due consideration of the challenges that the other person goes through. It doesn't mean that here on earth you must have to be able to live aright. You must have the man and the wife. That is not the case. The existence of woman suffices to be able to pick of the streams, of the fine streams through creation, and through her own intuition, pass it on to others, to other men in a much reduced way, and they themselves are able to do the implementation. It doesn't mean you have to be within the same roof, or the same tribe, or the same nation. No, that is not how it is. That would be one-sided. So a woman personality who in her womanliness is able to perceive of the fine streams in creation, is able to influence many. A man which may not even belong to her tribe or to her home, but resides somewhere else. That man who in his intuition is able to perceive of the radiations which have been put out by the man.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this answer. Yet again, we are expanding this picture about the activity of the man and the woman and how, let's say, it is meant to be and how it has been in reality, which is not how it is meant to be. Somehow we keep going astray. Whether it is assumptions or presumptions made by man or woman in how they, work with each other. It's in a way it's quite distressing. As you say, Gregory, the roles are clearly defined by nature, and yet somehow we seem to be able to mess it up with war, as you pointed out already, and man trying to become dominant over woman for whatever thinking he has in his head. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, the woman is, let's say, we say she's supposed to be involved in finer activity, and aesthetically, she's, let's say, more beautiful than the man. I know this is a very generalized statement, but let's just say in most cases it's maybe this way, and that is like an attraction for the man. And you could say that from the sexual point of view, but you can say it also, there's some beauty, inner beauty as well in there. Man seems to have, or let's say woman seems to have an influence over the man somehow. So my question on that, Gregory, is because sometimes, let's say, when we hear about relationships between man and woman, we're talking about as partners and so on, where, let's say, man says how he says some things, and how a woman says something to give whatever picture they want to paint. They're quite different, and so maybe the woman may not always express everything in words, while the man. I'm saying I need to think of some specific case, Gregory, because as soon as I start saying these words, I start thinking, oh, maybe here there's some example where it doesn't happen this way, So when I say I'm trying to make a general statement, and like as soon as I try to think of one, I think, oh, it's not like that usually. It can be, and it can be another way as well. So it's very hard for me to form the question. Let me think on that. So I'm trying to make it a general question, Gregory. So you can always add or subtract as you'd like. So what I want to say, Gregory, or ask. Is there a way, Gregory, that a woman expresses herself in terms of communication, which is different to the man? I mean, I know it sounds very simplistic, but it's like, Gregory, what I'm trying to say, Gregory, man speaks in a particular way, a woman speaks in some other way, and we're supposed to understand and work with each other. So is there something like that, Gregory, designed by nature, that how a woman speaks and how a man speaks?
As has been discussed in the past, that which is key to clearer understanding is the language of the intuition. How the personality expresses the intuition she or he has received is dependent on the maturity of the personality. Intellectual sophistry in which one hides one's intuition has caused many a damage. For in that scenario, what one is expressing is not what one has perceived. And what one has perceived is not what one is expressing. In that particular scenario, there has been a lot of confusion. If, however, one says what one means, then there will be clarity. The language will be clear and simple, and many of the distortions and confusions will be removed.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. Again, in your answer, you're, let's say, able to respond to different scenarios, which may be happening in one case, in another scenario, another thing happening in another scenario. So you've answered all those scenarios, so thank you for that, and in a very clear way. So one can really work out, yes, you speak what you mean what you speak, or you don't. And obviously how it comes out, it will can be confusing, or it can be very clear. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, Gregory, again, in this world of today of equality, I know it's meant to be complementary, man and woman, but the world we live is more about equality. I don't even hear the word complementary when people discuss these things. So what I want to ask on that now, should there be certain roles, Gregory, like even as we mentioned in the past, the woman used to be at home, or in general, because obviously there's always some exception in the olden times, and the man went outdoors, worked outdoors, you can say, outside the home. Now, in today's world, there's no, let's say, that limitation or that restriction, or whatever word we want to put on it, is being removed. So, and that's even expected now in most parts of the world, you can say. So, Gregory, is that really a progress?
When the word home is used, that word is all encompassing. That word home could be the state, could be the region, could be the town, could be the street, and could be the dwelling. All this is encapsulated in the expression home. Sometimes people say, I'm going to my hometown. I'm going to my home country. I'm going to my home continent. So when one's intuition is considered, one must take it in some extent, that which is generic, in that place in which there can be upbuilding by the individual. And in that place where there will be upbuilding by the individual, the woman comes first. For it is the intuition which she has perceived, in which she now makes use of and transmits to those around her, to those in her neighborhood. It is that intuition which many now implement. That is what one is referring to. If along the line that intuition is of ignoble behavior, as you will find, as is characterized in some areas of nakedness, then you find that many a man will respond to such, and subsequently that will lead to a degradation of the dignity of the woman and of the man. So one must not take the word, the expression home, to mean an earth dwelling or a room alone. The home must be considered something all encompassing. One may also consider the word home to be the spiritual home, the point of origin of the human spirit. That is more precise. That point where it had set out as an unconscious spirit germ, and in going out of its home, which is the paradise of man, going out to experience and going then maturing into a state of consciousness of the surrounding, of consciousness of the activities around it, and subsequently that of self-consciousness. Of self-consciousness in the sense that the virtue which has been implanted to it is able to perceive of the radiations of these virtues, which radiations it needs to strengthen itself. And for the woman, that of purity or that of faithfulness. That is the basis. For such radiation must have come from the origin home. That is what home is referring to. First, in making use of this radiation, she is behind the man, having his back, whereas the man is to make use of these same radiation, which have been tempered by the woman so as to accomplish many things here on earth or in other parts of creation. So when the word home is used, it should be all-inclusive, inclusive of the source and of the abilities and of the resources which had been granted the human personality here on earth or in the dwelling of man, maybe in a small home. That is only a small microcosm of the whole, where in his or her activities, the man and the woman uniting their abilities are able to complement one another to accomplish the task which have been set for the human personality here on earth, to make here on earth as beautiful as and wonderful as one has it back home in paradise. The woman is the bridge who is able to draw from this stream and advising the man now becomes the executor. If there is faithfulness in the perceptions of these streams, if there is purity in the perceptions of these streams, before long or before too long, the activities here on earth will be a mirror of the wonderful activities back home in paradise.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for that answer. You've said a lot there. I want to explore that more now. But before I do that, I want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And if you're interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or get a copy for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is what defines a woman? What defines a woman? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 641-958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of the show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, a space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is what defines a woman. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. So Zeno is ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. Now, Gregory, there's so much you said in your last answer. I mean, one of the things I was thinking of, because the woman has this, as you said, the ability to receive through the intuition and pass it on her picture to the man, and he's supposed to execute that, let's say put it into material form. But as we've already said, Gregory, how a woman or man communicate, whether they speak, let's say truly, or, and pass on truly, or whether they use their intellect and twist to something else. And then, there's you could call it either deliberate miscommunication, or there is just a miscommunication and misunderstanding automatically. And then we can fully see what can happen, what disaster that can result in. So going on that, Gregory, so it's like how there are ways, the things, how life is meant to be, and the ways how the life actually is, because of how we act. And I'm thinking, Gregory, and since we have a variety of people on the earth, you could say some act in the way as it's meant to be, telling the truth and, passing on our perceptions in a pure way, others twisting it and, using their intellect to turn it into something else. And as I say, Gregory, the variety of such people. And I'm thinking, how should one become aware? I'm talking about between man and woman, Gregory, again, because probably women can. Let's talk about that first, Gregory. When women communicate the way they communicate, between the women, are they, because of their intuition, sharper intuition, are they more easily able to sort of work out what the reality is when when they're communicating between themselves? Let's just look at that communication, woman to woman. So is that easier for them to work out what they mean?
Well, you are asking a question which presumes that one is able to enter into the intuition of the personality. That is completely out of the question, in the sense that the human personality is endowed with the free will. How they decide is left to them and them alone. But one thing is certain: when the human personality has decided, in accordance with the motions in creation, in accordance with the law of reciprocity, that which they have decided, be it in their intuitions, in their thoughts, and in their physical activities, that has returns. Then, sooner or later, those returns will have to assail them because they themselves made that decision. So it will not be right for one to try to understand how they must decide. For just like every other human personality, they have a free will. The Almighty does not dig into how man or woman will decide. For the laws in creation are perfect, and we bring to each personality that which they themselves, through their activities, have brought into creation.
Thank you so much for this answer again, Gregory. Because you have explained the process here, we can, see that picture now. That yes, first there's a, you could say that at some point there's a decision, and then there's an effect, or the result of that decision will manifest. And so when we see, we don't know what somebody's going to decide. That I agree, for sure. But there are signs and there are manifestations of decisions that are made. So we can just respond accordingly to that. So thank you for clarifying that. The question I was trying to ask along with this, Gregory, was, is there a difference in communication between woman to woman and woman to man? Just so what my point there is, Gregory, because the women have a sharper intuition to the man. So do the women themselves are able to sense each other more than the man and woman?
That communication you mentioned depends on the inner maturity of the personality. If in their inner maturity, in their communications, they are able to resonate, then that communication is seamless. If not, then there are challenges along the way. But it is assumed, which may not be right, that the communication between the women are more seamless than the communications between the man and the woman. However, there is no hard and fast rule to follow. It all depends on the inner maturity of the human personality. The more mature a personality is, the simpler its mode of expression.
Thank you again for that answer, Gregory. Again, it answers in very clearly, that how we can see this. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, is another aspect. Women, they say they're more emotional, or they express their emotions more than the man. Is that? I've got more questions following from that actually, but let me just start with that one. So, when it is said they are more emotional, almost like they're acting according to their more than their intellect, you could say, and more than the man. That's the point I want to say. So, is that emotion because of the sharper intuition of the woman?
There are genuine emotions and there are not genuine emotions. If these inner emotions, which are referred to as emotions, has arisen from one's intuition then they are genuine. There are others which do not arise from the intuition but are intellectual. Externally, they may appear similar, but internally, they are different. A simple example nowadays, which one may give, which may look very mundane, is like you have a cold. The cold could be the normal flu. However, that cold, the result could be the COVID. However, in their expression, they look alike. But one is the flu, the normal flu, and the other one is the COVID. So in one's emotions, you may find one, the cause of that emotion could have arisen out of one's intuition, or could also have arisen from a calculated way of behavior. Only through experiencing and observation can someone learn to differentiate which is which.
Thank you again, Gregory, for this answer. You can see how we need to examine these scenarios and, to see the picture properly. So thank you for that. One of my points of that question, on what the next question now, because we talk about the intuition, we talk about the intellect, and we always say the intuition is the one we should be listening to, and yet we know the intellect is involved in our, however we express things or act. And as you said already, Gregory, somebody could be doing a calculated, the emotion could be calculated or it could be genuine. And of course, it's the genuine one that we really like to, let's say, be attracted by rather than the calculated one. So what I want to say next, Gregory, okay, let me just say it as a general way, Gregory. When we say intuition, it's like a let's make it equivalent to saying it's something coming from your heart. And when we are talking from the intellect, it's something, let's say, let's define intellect a bit more, Gregory. Would the intellect be something logical? Let me just check that. Does it mean when we use the intellect, it's something is logical?
Of course, when the intellect is used, it itself has its own logic, but which logic is partial, is dependent on what has been observed. However,
right. Yes,
that which also springs from one's intuition is logical. Its logic is different. For when you ask someone why he or she has done something, that person can give you a reason. However, it is what lies behind it. What lies behind it is the key. That which lies behind it is sometimes referred to that being the intuition. That is what pushes. That is the power behind it. So it could be greed or it could be generosity. But the human personality must be sensitive enough, or should strive to be sensitive enough, to be able to perceive of what lies behind it.
Thank you so much, Gregory. You've helped me So the question I was going to come further into later, but I can just say it now, and it'll all make sense what you've just answered here. That because you might say, oh, emotion or intuition is not logical, but the intellect is logical, and then you think, oh, maybe, well, that doesn't, and logical things are meant to make sense and meant to be right, and then, but if something is not logical or not coming from logic, you think, oh, then it can be wrong. But as you've just explained, the intuition, well, the intellect is partial logic, and let's say the spirit intuition is coming also logical, but it's like from another level. So when you have that picture, it's sort of you see it all again in a different, you could easily make contradictions and say, oh, that's not right, intuition is not right, it's not logical. And here you've painted it, no, that's not the way how it is. It's like a different level. So thank you for that. And I was leading from that. I was going to say, oh, women are more sensitive, and but then sometimes it looks like they're not being logical, and then, but what you have just said, Gregory, is just sort of puts everything into place there.
A different expression.
Yes.
Instead of using the word logical, one may use the word consistent.
Right.
That which is of one's intuition is consistent with the laws of intuition, with the laws of creation or the laws of nature. Whereas that which is of the intellect is only consistent with the local laws which had been propounded by man. So you will find that the limits of the intellect is very narrow, whereas that of the intuition is very broad, is all-encompassing. So one must differentiate. However, only through experiencing can one come to the realization of that which is of intuition and that which is not of intuition.
Thank you again for that, Gregory. It's really important what you've just said there, to get that picture right. Now, Gregory, many times we hear in the news when there's a crime against a woman, sexual crime especially, and let's say one group of people will give an opinion, and I'm talking about a man and a woman, a man committing a sexual crime against a woman now, without going to anything specific, and one side, let's say, would say, oh, the woman is to blame because she was wearing short dress, or she was, as you said earlier, even being naked or something, or not wearing much, and that's like tempting the man to do what he did. And then the women, or let's say another side, will point out and say, no, women should be free to wear what they want, and there's no excuse for a man to do that. So we hear these things, Gregory, said quite a lot, and sometimes you think, oh well, both sides are justified in their thinking, but then there's something saying, is that really right? So, Gregory, could you sort of say something about that? When people are, making these judgments, you can say, about when something like this happens.
Well, although it is very difficult for one to make statements of this nature, one may only pass a very simple comment. For one who has so much resources, understanding the neighborhood, that one lives. Understanding what goes around you. If you are, in quotes, a rich man, you will not expose the funds you have such that those people who do not have, and there are many around you, such an activity will generate those base passions for those human personality who are still not strong enough to restrain themselves. For if one does that, the likelihood is that many who are still not strong enough within themselves cannot restrain themselves and may commit an offense by stealing from you. Or nowadays, they don't even wait. They come to your home or they stop you in the car to steal from you. Of course, these people who are still not strong enough do not steal from the ordinary person because they know the ordinary person hasn't got it. So one has to be aware of one's environment, knowing fully well that in the current environment, there are many who are not strong enough to hold themselves back. If, however, the personality does not take that into consideration, that personality has made a decision such that those who then come after her or some other, all right, in their immaturity, decide to commit such acts. Of course, they have sown a terrible seed, which returns will come here or hereafter. But it is best to protect oneself rather than to allow those of ignoble longings or ignoble characters to assail one with all sorts of terrible things.
Thank you so much for this answer, Gregory. What you should saying there is that, we all have to take responsibility, and have awareness, and not everybody's different. So, you can't just say, oh, be this way and I'm going to be fine, or be another way and I'll be fine, because in this environment, there's all types of people here. So, so based on that, Gregory, does that mean we should be, how can I say, be very cautious and, and careful in, I'm almost thinking, Gregory, going over the top in protecting ourselves. I'm talking here with reference to women because we know it's the men who are unfortunately the more prone to causing this, doing these crimes.
Well, one will not say cautious. One will say each personality has the duty to be vigilant, to be on the alert in his or her activities, so as to protect oneself. If one, in the course of one's activities, is always vigilant, many a crime can be prevented. After all, it is said, prevention is better than cure. So the key here is vigilance. Vigilance in all our activities. That we keep many an evil at bay and far from the individual.
Thank you so much for that answer there, Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio, which is broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is What Defines a Woman? You can also listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. Zeno is ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. And as I mentioned already, the topic we're discussing tonight is what defines a woman? What defines a woman? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Now, we've been talking all sort of different aspects about woman, her abilities, and her interaction with man or man interaction with woman. And I'm just thinking, well, I'm even thinking, reflecting on all the things you've said about home, so everywhere, let's say we categorize man and woman. Man is this way, woman is that way. Woman should be doing this, man should be doing that. And you sort of, by giving your, I'm going to say, comprehensive answers, by building a bigger picture, I guess that's basically what it is. And then we see it differently rather than these categorizations that we have a huge tendency to, put people in a pigeonhole. Man is this, woman is that. Now, but one thing, Gregory, you said right at the beginning, which is clear, it is the woman who bears the children, which is given from nature, and so that is like a very specific role there. And what I'm trying to understand there, Gregory, is that woman's main role on the earth? Let me say that way, because woman has a different role, obviously, in the spiritual and so on. So is that a woman's main role, to produce children and care for children? Yes, can I ask that?
One of the tasks which the female has is that of giving birth to children if they decide to go along that channel. But one should know there is womanhood here on earth, and there is also womanhood in the beyond, that is, in the non-earthly. The tasks of the woman on the earthly and the non-earthly has always been the same. The abilities she carries within her, that ability which is able to perceive of the finer strings of power that stream through creation, that ability ensures ennoblement. So the primary task of the woman in creation is that of ennoblement. Ennoblement in the sense that it is able to perceive of the will and also of the love of the Almighty, and in that perception ensures that which the man is able to is of benefit, which man then brings into fruition through his activities. So ennoblement comes first. That ennoblement that comes through the finer abilities of woman.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Again, it makes us see that we must not look at the earthly alone, when we are looking for the purpose or the duty or the activity of woman or man, but we need to, in fact, we look mostly on the earthly side, how things are, but actually is there, you could say, the spiritual or non-earthly side we need to be very much aware of. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, I did point to this a little bit earlier. Woman is seen as more beautiful than man, finer, as we've said already, and that is meant to be in the activity, but also in the physical nature or body, you can say, that comes across. So now, when maybe, Gregory, what I'm asking is like you said earlier, is this, when somebody communicates, is it genuine or is it calculated? So now again, in the world of today, Gregory, we see women portrayed, you could say, I don't like this word sex objects, but in that way, you could say, and it seems somehow attractive to the man, and then this is how they're, you could say, promoted, and it's happening everywhere now. It's been going on for centuries as well, but it somehow has become big now in the last, let's say, recent times. So what I want to ask on that, Gregory, is that how, can I say, is that, Gregory, the man driving the woman to be that way, or is the woman sort of allowing it to happen, because, this, yes.
In oneself, which man or woman will be glad or happy to see their mother portrayed as a sex object in public? Is there any personality that will be glad that their mother through whom they incarnated is now displayed as a sex object. One has personally not come across anyone who is happy at that. That being the case, one must therefore agree that either you have many or some who are calculating, who wish to make profits from such exhibitions, and therefore they themselves are so depraved. Or you have the other case where the woman personality has purposely allowed herself to be used as an object to attract others for personal earthly profits. One is as despicable as the other.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. I just, as you were answering, I just remembered I watched something on TV where, you get pop singers or singers, just call them singers, who are newly starting in that business, and they have that talent to sing, obviously, and then for them to get promoted, they need a music company to promote them, and then let's say the singer has their own principles or wishes, how they wish to be, and then they, just like you say, Gregory, and for certain purposes, the music business company will push them in a direction that is not of their wish, but the singer's wish, but something else, like the sexual way. And in the beginning, the people, like a baby or a child doesn't know, he does what he's asked to be done, told to do, right? Or a child does what he's told, and so when you're new, you follow it, not knowing what's going, if there's anything strange in it or not what you want, because you're not aware of it. Many times people are not aware. And then, of course, when it happens later, a few times you see, oh, that's not what I want. So I saw this, I can't even remember the particular person anymore. It was a TV show just a few days ago. And the person realized, and they tried to move away from that, So what we can say, Gregory, there is a particular lifestyle, how the world is, the way business runs. And that's what people are, let's say, born into that, or they come in contact with that, and then they recognize it later. Oh, that's not what I am. That's what they're promoting me with. And then as they get bigger, or they say, no, I'm going to take control of the way I want to be, or even leave that way. So Gregory, as you have said already, this life is an experience, and many times we get into things unconsciously, unknowingly, and but if we are vigilant, like you said also, these things we will become aware of very quickly, and then we can redirect ourselves. So, but it just points to, Gregory, how much we have to become conscious of that is going on, that may not, as I say, be what we want. It's something that the world is like, and we fall into that. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, just another thing, going back to the woman bearing children, and then I want to look at the family, which in general is man and woman and the children. So I just want to understand, when families break up, for example, it's so difficult to make a generalization, but let's say in the ideal cases, the husband and wife love each other and they bring their children up, and it's the ideal situation for them to grow, the children to grow and have a happy home, you can say. And then we have cases, Gregory, where the marriage breaks up and the children are affected by that, in a sort of detrimental way. So I just want to ask Gregory, when there's a situation like that, should the parents not split up? Should they stay together for the sake of the children?
A marriage is a union between two people. And in that, it means one complements the other. Children are only a product out of the decisions they themselves have made. If, however, subsequently, those who are involved in the union, which is the man and the woman, if they then decide to go their way, then, in accordance with the laws, they themselves have made a decision freely, and there will be returns. Whether they decide to stay in it or not stay in it, that in itself is also a decision. So it would be wrong to ask one to stay or not to stay. For the intuition of staying and the intuitions of not staying are unique and are decisive and have their repercussions. It is the human personality who, through their activities, are able, to some extent, to perceive of these returns. And it is left to them. One thing must stand out. As long as those involved are sick, without the extent of anything which tries to put an obstacles in their upbuilding, that thing has been perceived way before time, then they can ask for help. So it is not that couples are just left alone without support. Support has always been there, but they themselves, through their activities, should learn to ask and ask diligently, such that they will be supported. The same thing goes for the children.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer. As again, what we see here is we need always to have a clarity of what is, the purpose of the union. In case here we're talking about marriage, and then it's not directly about children as people might think. And what was the purpose of the marriage? That is what it's about. And then everything, once that clarity is there, then all the things can be clearly seen how it should be dealt with, and the children also are taken care of, because obviously they're not happy when their parents have had to split up. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, we touched on this a bit earlier on in the show, but I want to sort of look at it a bit more, explore it a bit more. So we've said there's man and woman is a human being, and then we have we mentioned about sex change briefly, that those are we could say the physical body parts, but that's not what is a man and a woman, that's just the body parts. And then, Gregory, people they call it gender identity, which is I'll just read this from the dictionary meaning. What is gender identity? It says, it's the personal sense of one's own gender. Gender identity can correlate with a person's assigned sex or can differ from it. In most individuals, the various biological determinants of sex are congruent and consistent with the individual's gender identity. So what I want to say, Gregory, so when a baby is born, they can tell from the body part, oh, this is a male and this is a female, right? And then when we let's say, as we are growing, going through puberty, or even say beyond that, and then somehow some of us, it appears they're not happy with the body they're in, for whatever reason. Now, what I want to ask about this, Gregory, is that this is a feeling about their identity, and we've been talking here already, Gregory, with the intuition being logical, the intellect being logical. And when people are, let's say, going through this, I don't know if the word is exploration, but discovery of who they are, which is not male or female as in general sense. They're not, either we can call it confusion, or there's something different about them that doesn't allow them, to feel comfortable as they are. And I guess what I'm saying, Gregory, is they're not sure what they are in their identity, gender identity. So my question on that, Gregory, is when people are feeling whatever feeling that is disturbing them with regard to their gender, how can they sort of either be helped, or what can help them, let's say like that, when they have this issue?
First, one must know that there is womanhood also in the non-ethnic. The gender identity of the individual is unique. It's either a male or a female. However, here on earth, the possibility is there that in the spiritual sense, which is the ones with the permanence, which is unique, the personality is a woman. However, the earthly manifestation, which has now come to be through its previous activities, is such that it is now forced to use the male body to experience. It was she who, through her past activities, that brought this into. The same thing can also be said for the man who, in his past activities, engaged so much so in the female area of activity. So you have here, as a final manifestation here on earth, these form of distortion going on. Only through their experiences are they able to come to a sensing or a realization of that which has happened. There are some who then decide that they wish to undergo changes. But ask yourself, how long is one here on earth that the human personality will now have to endure a transformation such that he or she now becomes what it now says it should have been? In the other case, is the personality now able to have a womb such that it can bear a child? Is he now going to be going through periods? For how long will these ones go on? These are all distortions which are only temporary. Therefore, it is advisable that the human personality must be vigilant must be on the alert, such that it is engaged in the activities through which it has sense it should be engaged. That of the woman, the finer activities, that of the man, the coarser activities. Life on earth is only temporary. Like has been stressed, there are some who wish to make changes, subsequently make changes again. The decision is theirs. As the human spirit souls, so shall he or she live.
Thank you very much for that answer, Gregory. Dear listeners, we're coming to the end of the show tonight. The topic was, what defines a woman? So hope you enjoyed the discussion. And I'm going to end with reading, as usual, from the foreword of the Grail Message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abrushin. So, dear listeners, if you want to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www